Think about this for a moment. The largest aircraft carrier on Earth, the USS George H.W. Bush, nuclear-powered, carrying 80 warplanes, 5,000 sailors and aviators, is right now sailing off the coast of Namibia, southern Africa, circling the entire African continent. Not through the Mediterranean, not through the Suez Canal, not through the Red Sea, around 6,000 extra miles, 3 to 4 additional weeks of transit time, because the United States Navy has decided that the Red Sea is too dangerous for its third carrier strike group to pass through, stop, and think about what that means. The most powerful military force in human history, a nation with 12 aircraft carriers, precision-guided munitions, stealth bombers, and a military budget that exceeds the next 10 countries combined, is being forced to sail around an entire continent because the Houthis, an Iranian-backed militia from Yemen, have made one of the world's most important shipping corridors too dangerous for American warships to cross. The Houthis have not defeated an American carrier. They have not sunk a single American warship, and yet they have already reshaped American naval operational geography through the mere credible threat of attack. That is one of the most important strategic facts about this war that nobody is properly explaining right now, and that is just the beginning of today's picture. Because simultaneously, Iran's interior minister has just issued a formal order to border province governors, not the IRGC, not the military command. The civilian Ministry of Interior to governors. The order use all delegated special powers to neutralize the threat of the American naval blockade. Ensure that the adversary fails on this front as well. That is a formal government directive. That is the Iranian state apparatus mobilizing against an active American naval operation. And the Wednesday ceasefire deadline is less than 48 hours away. Once you see the full picture of what is converging right now, the carrier rerouted around Africa, the formal Iranian neutralization order, the 18 American warships already in position, the Vance delegation preparing to fly to Islamabad, while Iran's foreign ministry says it has no plans to re-engage, you cannot unsee it. Let me build this from the military geometry first, because the geography tells you everything. The normal route for an East Coast American carrier heading to the Middle East is straightforward, Norfolk to the Strait of Gibraltar, through the Mediterranean, through the Suez Canal, down through the Red Sea, and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait into the Arabian Sea. Total transit time, roughly 2 weeks. The USS George H.W. Bush departed Norfolk on March 31st. It did not go to Gibraltar. It went south along the Atlantic coast of Africa. It is currently operating off Namibia. It will round the Cape of Good Hope, enter the Indian Ocean, and approach the Arabian Sea from the south. Total transit time at this rate, 5 to 6 weeks minimum. It will not be fully operational in the combat theater until late April at the earliest, possibly early May. The reason is confirmed and explicit. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow choke point between Yemen and Djibouti where the Red Sea meets the Gulf of Aden, has been transformed into a contested battle space by Houthi forces. The last American aircraft carrier to transit the Bab el-Mandeb was the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower in December 2023. Since then, American destroyers transiting the area have come under sustained Houthi missile and drone attacks. The operation to degrade Houthi capabilities conducted between March and May of last year cost over $1 billion. $200 million in missiles spent in the first 3 weeks alone. The US lost Reaper drones worth $30 million each, 2 jets worth $15 million each. They struck more than 1,000 targets, and the Houthis survived. That last sentence is the most important one. $1 billion, 1,000 targets struck. And the Houthis survived and are now threatening to close the Red Sea again in solidarity with Iran. What this means for the Wednesday timeline is precise and significant. America currently has 2 carrier strike groups in the theater. The USS Gerald R. Ford in the Red Sea after its record 300-plus day deployment, and the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. The Bush, with its 80 aircraft and carrier Air Wing 7, is still weeks away. America is operating with 2/3 of its intended carrier force on station as the ceasefire deadline expires. The full concentration of American naval power that was supposed to be the ultimate pressure tool, 3 carriers, the largest American naval deployment since the early Iraq War, is not fully assembled. And Wednesday does not wait. Now, the Iranian neutralization order, because this is the detail from the Fox News broadcast that most people watching missed entirely. Iran's Interior Minister Eskandar Momeni did not just issue a statement, he issued a directive to the governors of Iran's border provinces, instructing them to make full use of their delegated special powers to neutralize the maritime blockade and ensure that adversaries fail. Interior Ministry language, civil governance language, applied to a military confrontation in international waters. Mm-hmm. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah.
Iran's border provinces include the coastline along the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the approaches to the Strait of Hormuz. The governors of those provinces control port infrastructure, coastal access, local security forces, and the civilian logistics networks that support IRGC operations in the region. A formal directive from the Interior Minister to these governors to use all delegated powers is not symbolic. It is the civilian administrative apparatus of the Iranian state being placed in active coordination with the IRGC's effort to counter the American blockade. This is not Iran giving up. This is Iran mobilizing every layer of its governmental structure for a confrontation it is treating as existential. And the expert analysis from Fox News that we referenced earlier makes this even more alarming, because according to senior analysts who have tracked the Iranian regime for decades, Iran is not playing against American military power. Iran is playing against Trump's presidential term. Let me say that again because it changes the entire strategic picture. Iran's calculation is not, can we defeat the US Navy? The calculation is, can we survive until the next American administration? The Islamic Republic has watched Trump twice, in his first term killing their top general Qasem Soleimani, in his second term launching Operation Epic Fury and killing their supreme leader. Their strategic goal is not military victory. It is time. Survive long enough for American domestic politics to produce an administration that will not impose maximum pressure. Slow roll the negotiations, use the ceasefire to restock missiles, use the diplomatic track to buy time, and outlast the one American president who has actually been willing to pull the trigger. That context transforms every Iranian delay, every rejected negotiating round, every formal walkout from Islamabad into a calculated move in a long game that Tehran believes it can win. Not on the battlefield, but on the calendar. Now, let me give you the precise military balance that exists right now as Wednesday approaches, because the numbers matter enormously. The United States currently has 18 warships in the Middle East theater. The USS Tripoli, with Marines aboard capable of search and seizure operations at sea, the USS Michael Murphy and USS Frankie Peterson, guided missile destroyers that have already entered the Strait of Hormuz to begin mine clearing operations. The blockade has already forced 27 ships to turn around or return to Iranian ports. Only 16 ships transited the strait on Monday, compared to the pre-war average of roughly 80 to 90 vessels per day. The Tuska seizure changed the operational character of this blockade in a way that will define the next 48 hours. U.S. Marines dropping from helicopters onto an Iranian-flagged vessel in international waters, a 900-foot ship that weighs almost as much as a carrier, is not a routine blockade enforcement. It is a demonstration. Trump released the military footage himself. The message to Tehran was explicit and visual. We will board your ships. We will do it in international waters. And we are filming it. Iran's foreign ministry called the seizure extremely dangerous and criminal. It said the cargo was worth millions without specifying what it was. It warned that full responsibility for further escalation lies with the United States. And then it said Iran would use all its capacities to defend its national interests. 2 forces, 2 blockades, 1 waterway, and a ceasefire that expires Wednesday. Here's the expert analysis that reframes everything about Iran's negotiating strategy. The point from the Fox News discussion that deserves far more attention than it has received. The JCPOA argument, the argument from American Democrats that the 2015 nuclear deal was working and this war was unnecessary, rests on a fundamental misreading of what the JCPOA actually was. Even the Obama administration itself never described the deal as a permanent solution. It was designed to slow Iran's nuclear processes and create time for the better angels of Iran's nature to emerge. What actually happened during the decade the JCPOA was enforced is that Iran made incremental slowdowns in its nuclear processes while simultaneously using the massive infusion of capital from sanctions relief to fund its proxy network across the region, its missile program, its drone production, and its regional military posture. The sanctions relief that was supposed to moderate Iran's behavior instead stabilized a regime that had been in serious economic difficulty on the eve of the deal being signed, and gave it the resources to expand the very threat the deal was supposed to contain. That context matters now because the gap between what America is demanding, complete permanent surrender of the enrichment program, and what Iran is offering, a 5-year suspension, is not just a negotiating gap. It is a reflection of 47 years of Iranian strategic doctrine. Iran's nuclear program is not a bargaining chip. It is in their constitution. It is in their identity as a regional power. Asking Iran to permanently surrender uranium enrichment is not like asking Germany to reduce emissions targets. It is like asking America to permanently dismantle its nuclear deterrent. The domestic political impossibility of that concession is the reason these talks keep collapsing, and why the structural gap that Vance described after 21 hours in Islamabad cannot be closed in 48 hours. No matter how many carrier strike groups are converging. And yet, and this is where intellectual honesty demands, I give the strongest possible case for a deal being reachable. The pressure on Iran is real and it is accelerating. The IMF just cut its 2026 growth forecast for Iran to negative 6.1%. The Iranian economy is contracting at a rate not seen since the worst years of post-revolutionary isolation. The blockade has fully halted all seaborne trade into and out of Iranian ports. Iranian oil storage tanks are filling. When storage fills, pumping stops. When pumping stops, the oil industry, the financial foundation of the entire regime, begins suffering damage that experts describe as irreparable within weeks, not months. Weeks Iran cannot sustain this economically. The question is whether the political humiliation of visible capitulation is less survivable for the current Iranian government than the economic consequences of continued blockade. And that calculation changes every day. The blockade continues. Every barrel that cannot be exported, every tanker sitting full in a harbor going nowhere. Every day that the economic clock ticks is a day that makes the deal Iran needs to sign slightly easier to justify domestically. Trump told the New York Post he believes something amazing is going to happen in the next 2 days. He told a reporter he is not thinking about extending the ceasefire because he does not think it will be necessary. That level of public confidence from a president who has been willing to act twice before is either genuine intelligence about where the back-channel negotiations actually stand, or it is the final pressure play designed to force an Iranian decision before Wednesday midnight, either way. Wednesday decides, here's what to watch in the next 48 hours watch. Whether the Iranian Foreign Ministry changes its position from no plans to re-engage for now to any signal of delegation travel, the moment Iranian officials board a plane to Islamabad, the ceasefire extends. The moment they do not, the clock runs to zero watch, whether Trump posts anything about the negotiations after midnight tonight. When he is optimistic, he posts. When he is preparing for military action, he goes quiet. The silence or the post will tell you more than any formal statement. Watch the USS Bush's position. It cannot arrive in the theater before Wednesday, but its presence off Namibia is a message America has a third wave of power coming. The question is whether Iran's negotiators believe the threat is credible enough to change their calculus before the first 2 waves are tested. Watch Lindsey Graham. When Graham is seen entering the West Wing late at night, as he was on Monday, he is not there for pleasantries. He is there for war authorization conversations. His presence in that building right now is one of the most significant signals of where Washington's internal deliberations actually stand. Wednesday is 48 hours away. The USS Bush is rounding Africa. Iran has ordered its governors to neutralize the blockade. The Tuska is in Marine custody, and the ceasefire is expiring. The people around you think this is a diplomatic story with a happy ending coming. They have not seen the full picture. Share this, not for the algorithm. Share it because the next 48 hours will determine whether the largest military concentration America has assembled in the Middle East since the early Iraq War is used or stands down. We will be here when the answer comes.